Charme, Heron Affair, Peace and Freedom. Welcome. Technical issues, I apologize. This is the world that we live in. But give thanks and praise. Here we are, another Sunday, and we're back to Sunday mornings. And I encourage you to please click like and to share. Some of you, I think, are a little confused because you're used to seeing on my YouTube page, it's saying Queen Mother Imakhu. It says La Serena Imakhu. That is one of the names that I'm known by. And so I'll be able to change that within a week. Tessa, how are you? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Much love to you. And uh, I am so very pleased to be able to bring another service to you. Welcome to my home. See my sewing machine in the corner there. And so hopefully you've had a wonderful week. I know that I've had a really exciting week. And with all of its challenges, we grow through them. And the message today deals with turning your challenge into triumph, which we are always able to do as long as we focus on making that so. And I'm just going to take a moment here to just share on social media. There are some unfortunate glitches here with the system, and I wasn't picking up the right camera. It was picking up the wrong camera. So let's fix that right now. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna share. Yeah, bounce back and forth between this, that, and the other. So let's share from here. And so my plan is to having somebody work with me in doing tech, because that will be helpful. It's been a little hard for me to kind of trust, figure out who I can trust and who will be reliable. That's always been the issue, but I know that that's going to work itself out because I'm in a different place. My energy is shifted, and because of that, I am just very confident about all the changes that are taking place in my life. And I know it's true for all of you as well. I'm trying to find myself here. I can't find myself live on my phone. Here we are. Okay. All right. So share. And here we go. And share also to my pages. All right. Give thanks. Let's celebrate life. I went to a couple of memorials over the past couple of days, just completely unexpected, but they were for people who had lives that were so well lived. They were inspiring because it reminded me of the fact that what we really are here for is to be able to live well, to live well, to do good things for ourselves and for each other, and to help to evolve the planet forward. So I'm grateful that I had a chance to share in the celebration of life for these people who really left quite an imprint and a legacy behind. Give thanks. All right. Unawat Nebin Pet Mta. All pathways of heaven and earth are open to you. The powers within me to open all doors of heaven and earth. Trust and believe that you can make positive change. As long as you believe, as long as you know within yourself that you have limitless potential. The powers within me to open all doors in heaven and in earth. I am that I am. a shining being who lives in light, manifested from the limbs of the Creator. Nuku, Nuku, Amiku, Keimam, Keperu, Emichora. I think about last year when I was in a beautiful house, but there was so much toxicity in it on so many levels. And my losing my voice because of the toxic air that was coming from the basement, the fact that the landlord would not address it, the city had to get involved. But I'd been exposed to toxicity for quite a while, and it damaged my vocal cords. I'm so grateful that my vocal cords have healed. I'm back in the recording studio, and I've got new music that's coming out for you. Give thanks and praise. Check in with me. Let me know how are you? How's everybody? How's everybody? Take a nice deep breath in. Breathe out. Relax your breathing. All of the pathways of heaven and earth are open to me. All of the pathways of heaven and earth are open to me. All of the pathways of heaven and earth are open to me. All of the pathways of heaven and earth are open to me. All of the pathways of heaven and earth are open to me. You sing. All of the pathways of heaven and earth are open to me. Give thanks, and give thanks and praise. We're so grateful. Welcome to all, no matter what your traditional background is. This is a space of love and connection and of peace and of education and of definitely unification. We'll be learning more about unification today with the message. And unification begins with unifying within ourselves, being able to find that place of acceptance, of inner wisdom and knowledge, and of peace. Majestic Creator, thank you, thank you, thank you. Moby Bongo, thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Yes, express that gratitude because the fact that we're here. We are here. Oh my goodness, that's just. And I wake up every day thinking of what I have scheduled, but then also leaving room for the possibility of what can come up. Like my whole past 2 days have been upended simply because of the fact that I found out about these two memorial services. And both were for people who were in the activist group that I belong to. I belong to a number, but the main one I'm involved in is People's Organization for Progress. And so two of our members transitioned. And, you know, these were people who were vibrant. The one elder, Elsie Pilgrim, she, wow, I mean, you could write a book on the life that she had, you know, all the prolific changes that she had made in her community, and how she was truly a warrior for the community in every aspect of what she did. And she was a nurse and made a lot of strides and changes for people in nursing, but also in general with her activism for the people. And then there was John Levine. John Levine was he was a walking encyclopedia, much like Chairman Lawrence Ham, who is the leader of the People's Organization for Progress. But John Levine just was so insightful, so well educated about what was happening in our community, but also in history. But he was somebody who, as Brother Chairman had said yesterday at his memorial, was a revolutionary. Why? Because he was determined to affect change. Why? Because he believed that it is so. And same thing with Elsie Pilgrim, who transitioned. When you become a change maker, it begins here. It's not about accepting your circumstances if they're not right. You have to decide to do something about it. You can decide to accept a life sitting in squalor, or you can decide to get up out of it or change the conditions. You can accept that you are living with limited resources, or you can expand your vistas and see what is actually out there for you, and know that you can dream bigger beyond yourself. There's so much more out here in the world as long as you open yourself up to it. You're never going to find out about it if you stay closed minded, if you stay limited. And let me remind you also that the term for God, goddess, gods, goddesses in the Kemetic tradition is Netcheru. Netcher is a compound word. Net means no. Cher means limitation. Netcheru is the plural, meaning no limitations. And we believe that that exists within you. All the components of the divine are not only external, but they are internal. And that's what makes it possible for us to affect change in our lives. And also, the word for miracle is Kepri. Kepri is depicted as the scarab beetle. And without going into all the details about that right now, I'll save that for the next time. But the miracle of life that comes from the cycle of the scarab beetle, and how it is conceived and then how it is nurtured during conception is a miracle in and of itself. But Capri means transformation of the mind, transformation of your life, but also that your life is a miracle and that you can create what we call miracles. Okay. All right. So let's get started with the ceremony. You know, I'm a little low here. Let's see if I can lower this a little bit. Okay, that's better. All right. Okay, so want to, let me see. Okay, it's right here. Everything all laid out. Okay. So we're beginning opening the way and pouring libation to Beset Ibesu. The way openers in our tradition. Let's surround ourselves in a circle of light. Yes. Knowing that we are encased in protective light and that we are drawing in only positive energy that is going to be nourishing, that is going to be beneficial, that is going to be illuminating in so many ways. This space is divinely protected. Give thanks. All right. In, in, Yunherech beset, Yunherek besu, ek yuni, yunim katni, Anuk beseti besu, Parakani, Enechenu, Parekani, Yuneni beset besu nefer I wadu nefer nebu, Wep wat beset im wepti, Beheni besu embesa, Behen besu hauni I hetni, Sebek bet yuni, Duau. Show yourself beset. Show yourself besu. Enter and open within me. Open within my body, for I am beset and besu. I bow to you. Bless me. Open for me, beset, all good doors and good roads. Open the way, beset, in my business and income. Cover me, besu, with your panther skin. Cover me, besu, and my family and my home and my spiritual family as well and associates. Cause my enemies to flee. Many thanks to you. Yen, yen, yen. Now honoring the life force that is within us. Dwarel heftweben Emma kerab dead and pet Anacharakitium Kepri kemam necheru Heikwebenek Pesid mutek Heiktium suta necheru Erinek mutnut Eriuis erit Nini duare heftwebenef Emma kerab dead and pet En 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 Shenu is a water temple, and therefore we pray for the water, we pray with the water, we honor the water that is within us. You should remember to pray for the water where you live. Water is vital to life. Nukwanebu per emnu mutni pu nut. I am the sacred plant that grows from Nu. My mother is Nut. Webni, cleanse me. Wujani, heal me. Hekni, guide me. Jedni, speak to me. Anuk said, Yemen, I am listening. Duau, many thanks. And now take your water, say wonderful, beautiful things into it. Anuk mer, Anuk nefret. I am love. I am good, beautiful, and successful. Nini nefret. I welcome goodness. Anukam Shanu. I am protected in the sacred circle of light. Anuk Barek. I am blessed. And you can say whatever words in English that are positive to you. Sekseki espet. I overcome chaos. Nini, my 8. I welcome order, justice, harmony, reciprocity, balance, and higher love. Duau. I give so many thanks. I'm so grateful. Let us drink. Give thanks and praise to our ancestors. Mchertu, Degasnu Duau, to the ancients, to the ancestors. We follow your footsteps. Many thanks to you. Erchenuku, Ernuku, you give us light, we give you light. Sechnu Kebu, we pour libation. Ishkanu, we remember you. Keru Renuechenu, we speak your names. Simmons, Blackman, Pridgeon, Exum, Whitley, Artis, Ortiz, Aldridge, Anderson, Lloyd, Yates, McLaughlin, Myers, Murray, Mosley, Salmon, Ely, Clyburn, Mayfield. Give thanks and praise. Speak the names of your ancestors out loud. And I would encourage you, if you do not know the names of the surnames of your family, then you should learn them because you should be reciting them on a regular basis in order to give thanks, but also to awaken that energy and to connect as you pour libation, as they are there to help us. Our ancestors are there to help us, and as we allow them to help us, those who were in light, then we help them to elevate. Those who passed away who were of questionable energy, you pray for them. You don't call upon them unless you have a you need to have wisdom or knowledge rather from them, but you need to have a guardian spirit with you so that you can make sure the energy that comes through is pure, so that the message is true, and so that you don't end up inviting any kind of chaotic energy from the way beyond. Okay. I like to always remind people, death does not make you wise. What you lived as is what you wake up as in the next life, just without a body. Your soul lives on and your character is within that. And so this is why we do elevation work, to help those who might be stuck because maybe their lives weren't all that. And I don't mean like spectacular and you got your name out there and all this. So I mean maybe they had disreputable character, maybe they had questionable character. Um, and there are those that you just continue to pray for, um, but you don't audibly call their name because that will bring the energy of manifestation into your space, and that may not be the best thing for you. So we call on our ancestors of light. In the Kemetic tradition, we call them the Iyaku and Shapsu. The Iyaku are the ones who walk closest to the creator. They're of extremely high vibration. The Shapsu are of light and high vibration, but they are still more readily accessible for us to work with and to communicate with. Mernu Ketepu, we wish you peace and blessings. Mernu Sharmei, we wish you peace and freedom. Ernu Merea, we give you much love. Duau, many thanks. Yunherek Yakui Shapsu, Duau. Eredani rek hek hekau, mer nefret hetepu, urek sekemet anu. Anu kutem shepsunebu, sekinu, 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 duau, duau, duau. Show yourselves ancestors of light, many thanks. Bring me wisdom, guidance, words of power, love, goodness, beauty, success, peace and blessings, protection, strength, income, gifts. I am a divine light to all of my ancestors. As you live your life in the best way that you know how, with, with beautiful intention and from a place of correctness, then you become a beautiful light that encourages all of your bloodline living and also those who have transcended. We are all ascending. Enk, enk, enk. And as we chant Unk, that means we are offering life energy. All right. The 10 principles of my eight. This is the foundation upon which we stand. Back to having a few visual issues. Got enough light. Okay. Although things have gotten better because I've gone back to being on ashwagandha, so it's not nearly as bad as it had gotten. It had gotten pretty bad for a minute, but things are better. Yunharech ma'et, dua ma'et, spirdi hekech emchrupen. Show yourself ma'et. Thank you. Ma'et, bring us your wisdom on this and guidance on this day. I will not do wrong. I will not steal. I will not immerse myself in depression. I will not violate another being physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. I will not hoard, disrespect, abuse, or misuse the land, nor deprive my loved ones and community of a rightful inheritance. I will not waste precious food. I will not waste precious water. I will not jealously desire to obtain that which is not mine. I will not eavesdrop or pry into matters outside the dictate of nature. I will not defile or debase my purity. I will not abuse my sexuality. I will not engage in infidelity with another man or woman's mate. I will not engage in sexual fantasies or sexual acts with a child. I will not cause needless terror. I will not be arrogant and egoistic. I will not act with selfish, destructive aggression. I will not cultivate a quarrelsome nature. I will not take a life outside of my eight, nor disrespect the life force. I will not cause the shedding of tears. I will not sow seeds of regret. I will not mistreat children and will give proper guidance and protection. I will not mistreat animals and will give proper respect. I will not be vengeful and angry except for a just cause within my eight. I will not be easily incited to action or contention. I will not uphold an untruth on or against someone else's behalf. I will not lie. I will not raise my voice unnecessarily. I will not speak maliciously against another being. I will not exaggerate. I will not talk too much. I will not act with sneaky manipulation. I will not be impatient or judge in haste. I will not entertain impure thoughts. I will not wish evil upon another being, but will not stand in the way of karmic law, and will invoke ma'at when necessary. I will not perform negative energy work, but will rightfully protect and defend myself in my eight. I will not turn my ears away from words of truth. I will not desecrate holy places. I will not desecrate holy traditions. I will not steal from or neglect giving to the temple offerings. I will not rob from the deceased. I will not betray my venerated ancestors. I will not blaspheme the Most High Nature. The 10 virtues of my eight. I have control of thoughts. I have control of actions. I have devotion of purpose. I have faith in the ability of my teacher to teach me the truth. I have faith in myself to assimilate the truth. I have faith in myself to wield the truth. I am free from resentment under the experience of persecution. I am free from resentment under the experience of wrong. I cultivate the ability to distinguish between right and wrong. I cultivate the ability to distinguish between the real and unreal. Dua ma'et em medu hekech. And last week, I introduced the Imakhu teachings that we also have our foundation upon. Right. This book is easier to hold. Let me, however, let me take it from my other book here, only because the print is a little bigger. Giving thanks and praise. Okay. Menku, correct action. My eight. And the first we have the EM, which means to tie, to bind, to set fire to, or to kindle. Graciousness. Appropriate restriction to motivate and create a gracious character. It pertains to how one conducts and projects him or herself out into the world. One, ma'at, which is integrity and reciprocation, standing up for and doing what's right. Two, ma'at shes ma'at, consistency. Three, makeru, truthful and correct speech, keeping one's word. And tinin, being reliable, unfailing, without absence, showing up. Imau, respecting boundaries. Imakhunut, respecting time. Tenui, confident maturity. Kem, appropriate behavior. including protocols, consideration, mindfulness. Degeg, to examine, critical thinking. 10. Nen erdat, not allowable, living according to a high standard. Wuje, high vibratory discretion and moderation. Iyut, dignity. Ibwab, clean body. Ibhebes, clean clothing. Hetwab, clean or wave, clean, uh, clean home. Ardi, mental, physical, and financial stability and security. Irit, menket, doing the very best work and workmanship. Kenti, leadership. Keper nefer, create beauty, goodness, and success. Keper chetep, create peace and calmness. Iri nin ifa, act without greed. Pesh kau irek, share provisions and knowledge and wisdom. Serit, kindness. Nechat, mercy, compassion, forgiveness. Hech kredi im ma'et, properly guide children. Kifaib, loyalty, devotion, commitment. Senenui nefer, good companions and associates. 28. Imak ibutu, which is respect elders. 29. Imak yaku, respect ancestors. 30. Meri rech, loving mankind. Take a moment and meditate on that. Just focus in on all of those character building principles of the Iyam, of the Iyam. Building character is important because how you leave here depends a lot on your character. You know, there are a lot of people who feel that just pushing and succeeding and having this and attaining no matter what and treating people any old kind of way in order to attain that success is what matters in life. What really matters in life is how people respond to you based on your character. Think about it. It's much better to be respected because of having integrity and coming from a place of consistent integrity than to be someone that a person that people are afraid of because you may be bullying, you may be manipulative, you may browbeat them, you may be abusive, and walking the line trying to have the two don't go together. All right. Some people make the excuse, well, I give to this charity. Well, there are plenty of people who have money and contribute to charities, but still have a horrible character, still will be lying, manipulative, deceptive, and are basically not truly contributing to society in the best possible way. Because some people will contribute to charities as a way of looking good. You know, there are a lot of people who put up a false face and stay silent. They'll be around people, but because the fact that they show up and they give money, then people think that they're all right, even though they question, well, I don't really know about this person because this person's quiet all the time. You know, she or he is quiet all the time, so I don't know. But they cough up the money, but that's usually a way in. Uh, so be mindful also of who you are around because, you know, we can make ourselves very vulnerable, you know, open to the wrong element because of vulnerabilities or being in desperate times of your life. That's why it's important to have a really good, strong circle around you at all times to be able to speak to you and say, hey, where did this person come from? You know, well, I don't think this person is really good for you, or I don't think this person is good in our circle. And or then, you know, they may bring in a crew of people that end up completely destroying what you have created, whether it's your family, whether it is an organization, whether it is the camaraderie that you once had on your job, in your club. Just think about it. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of us have experienced those times where we've had people, just one destructive element who's come in and then has just torn down the whole thing. Talk to me. Has that happened to you? You can please make a comment below if so. Let's go on to EMNE. Personal discipline and insights for accountable character building. Okay, so this is not about what you project out. This is what you mull on. This is what you internalize. This is what you meditate on within. So, Imakhu nature, respect nature. Desh en nature, yielding to the Most High without and within. So this is how you are compelled to act based on what you feel, what you believe. Imak yaku ishepsu, honor ancestors of light. Mir nkek, love your life. Mir katek, love your body. Wuswibek, broaden and expand your mind, having a willingness to learn. Ib wube, willingness to learn, to work. I'm sorry, willingness to work. Unk ma'et, honest living, living truth. Teni, accountability. Yehu ches, self-discipline, self-mastery. Sejamen, listen. Sherer menu, daily prayer. Daily prayer. I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do when I open my eyes is pray as I'm laying there. And then I go into meditation so then I can listen. But being grateful for life, being able to connect with divinity is the way that is the most ideal for starting your day. And then you can process what the day is going to look like, but make that connection first thing when you wake up. And then throughout the day, it doesn't mean that you have to stop everything and go someplace. Just where you are, you can just take the time to just say a little prayer. Kat menu, daily meditation. Kateb menu, daily exercise. Especially coming out of the pandemic, a lot of us have gotten back into that flow. Glad to be outside, glad to be walking around, glad to go to the gym. Chefak seneb, healthy food. Ibi web, clean mind and intentions. Iri enech, create healthy family, made relationships, loved ones, and neighbors. Now, this can be a little work for some of us because many of us have found families that have been challenging, and so when you come into that a new level of awareness, then it's up to you to decide how you're going to act within that framework or react within that framework, or whether you need to remove yourself in order to get yourself better, reinsert yourself, or whether you are maybe you're the problem. Okay, but whatever the case, when you make the decision to move forward in creating a new dynamic within your family, it takes applied effort, it takes great conscientiousness, it takes patience and perseverance, but also it takes relearning how you react, because maybe your reaction was not to do anything. And maybe that was for your own protection, and that's certainly understandable. But maybe once you get to a place where you're strong enough, then you can start acting and reacting differently so that the family takes note and so that the whole family is able to grow into a new place and a new vibration based on just one person's um, um, transformation in how they react within the family. Tessa says, I have to very carefully vet new spiritual family potentials. If I or other elder in the family act in haste, the whole family struggles so that toxic energy is removed. That's the truth. Gosh, I can tell you over all these years I've run temples, and that's been since 1999. I've been through so many different people who have come in with the intention of destroying or trying to just have things their way and thinking that they can manipulate the people around them into changing things. And doesn't always work out that way. Actually, it usually never works out that way. But in the meantime, they cause a lot of strife and cause needless struggle. So it can be a learning opportunity, or it can be one that sets things back. But the main thing is to continue to build those walls. I remember when I was in Philadelphia and I had I used to have temple meetings at my house at that point. And there was a man who showed up. I met him when I was speaking somewhere in Philadelphia. I think I was speaking at Temple University. And I think that's where we had met, where he had connected to me along with somebody else. And so he started coming to temple meetings, and then we moved them from my house because we realized it wasn't safe to have people come to my house and to know where I lived. So we moved it to a rec center. And then we had our annual Moed Ast Family Beach Day, where we would go to Rehoboth Beach and have a really wonderful time and have wonderful ceremony and fellowship. And this person came with us. And so one of our members had taken pictures, and the pictures included this person. We always thought there was something kind of off about him. I mean, including when I remember the children, they had all their little buckets and shovels and so forth, and were ready to go and get some water to play in the sand, and they were running to the down to the beach. Actually, I was holding hands with them, and we were running to the water, all excited. And this dude, he jumps up and he's running with us. Everybody's just like, "What's he doing? Why is he running with the kids? We barely know him." But other things that just did not seem right. Anyway, this one sister took pictures after the day was over, and it was like maybe later, a week, 2 weeks later, and that's when you started to get your pictures developed, right? So she came to my house and she showed me the pictures, and we're looking at this picture of this dude, and both of us said, he's he's an informant. And for the first time, we realized he could not possibly have been the age that he was claiming to be. And it was the first time we realized that his hair was dyed black, black, black. Okay. And he was claiming to be 27. And in the pictures, we looked at him and said, this dude's in his 40s. And so all of us ended up energetically sending him away. Okay. I mean, we went to Oracle also, and it was confirmed that, yeah, this dude was, yeah. So as a group, we energetically pushed him out, which is how it should be, because you're protecting the integrity of the group. And at that time, wow, we had a great group of people. Oh my goodness, it was really just a wonderful, wonderful group. Um, in some ways, I hated to move back to New Jersey because the fact that it meant that not everybody was going to be able to get to me when I moved to New Jersey and so forth. But even so, um, uh, when you have a really great group of people, it takes a lot of work to protect that group so that nobody of ill intent can come in. And especially for those of us who practice alternative religions, I'll say, or are reclaiming um, our indigenous spiritual practices of our ancestors, as I like to say. And this is across the globe in what is termed as paganism, which has become a catch-all phrase. But for those of us who have reclaimed our ancestral practices, we are very often targeted because we're seen as different, sometimes as outsiders, sometimes we're misperceived as threats when we're not doing any harm to anybody. We're just practicing our love of the earth and of nature and of the divine within it. But we can be easily targeted because of the fact that we are not quote unquote mainstream. So I advise all of you, if you are, well, if you're here, then obviously you know what I'm talking about. And with the various traditions of people who tend um, to follow my broadcasts, we're of different ilk, and that's perfectly all right because we're leading the way in a lot of ways to help others to understand and to be less afraid, but also we are standing in the freedom and joy of practicing what we know to be true for us. Okay, but just take care in protecting yourself and also your group. Thank you, Tessa. Thank you. Okay. Nime Shenu, build harmonious circles of family, loved ones, friends, associates, and neighbors. Imak Abutu, respect elders. Uhe Nendehu, release the unnecessary. Sometimes we can hang on to things, to people, to circumstances when it's time to let them go so that way we can welcome the new. Nini Wuhem, welcome the new. We say Wuhe, which means to release. Wuhe Esfet, release chaos, release the negative. Or that doesn't mean that everything you release is necessarily negative. It just also means that sometimes it's just time to let go and you're not letting it go and welcoming what is better for you. So it's important to recognize when to release. Wuhe and Ninu Wuhem. Welcome the new. Um, Seksek Sepu Seb. Overcoming bad habits. Ked. Plan and manifest goals. Kesu Seshet. Rites of passage. That's for another show. It's for another service. Sianafer, positive perspective. Sebet, to smile, laughter. You know, I realized I was getting better when I began laughing a lot more. Just sitting here watching TV and just really having a good belly laugh. And I realized that I had been in a place of darkness because of the health and of different changes in my family and so forth, necessary changes. I mean, people who pass away and just other changes in your life. But the main thing was with my health, and then not finding the right place to live. Trying to move forward. Sometimes you feel stuck, and sometimes you can just be in a place of seriousness. And so when I started laughing a lot more, I realized I was healing. Perehat, courage, self-confidence, strength, conviction. Nehen, humbleness and modesty. Keri, finding peace within yourself in all circumstances, or finding peace with yourself in all circumstances. That's a tough one. That doesn't mean that you accept it, but that means that because even if you're going to make change, you have to find a centeredness within yourself first and operate from there in order to be focused to make the changes that are necessary. But it begins with finding that settled, peaceful place. Meri, being someone worth loving. People will expect love and expect unconditional love, but it can be some of the most deplorable, detestable, wretched people, and don't think it's them. If you want to be loved, then be mindful of being a person who is worthy of loving. Nechamit Seneb, health, health conscious sexual pleasure. Well, I've told you all that I'm celibate, okay? Happily so. But that means that I am taking that sexual energy and fueling it into something else. And so I derive great pleasure from that. But for people who are sexually or sensually active, then it is the reminder that sensuality and sexuality are sacred, and they are a healthy part of life. But don't lower yourself. Don't debase yourself in by involving yourself in activities that are what you would consider beneath you, or even for people who don't know that there is another way of being able to honor your sexuality and your sensuality. Um, I mean, I've heard stories from women where they've gotten talking to doing this sexual act by their mate or whatever, and then they end up in a lot of pain. But they're just doing it just to try to be compliant in the relationship or to keep the person around. And that's not healthy for you. And it's selfish, to be very honest with you. And if you are with somebody who is asking you to engage in things that are not what you're about, then you need to find somebody else. Basically speaking, the act of sexuality, the act of sex intimacy, the act of intimacy is what I want to say, is is something that can be so highly developed, and people don't even know the great level of spirituality that comes through it, and also how you truly can connect soul to soul through it. Yeah, and all kinds of mystical manifestations can take place if you are both of the same mindset. Okay. All right. So give thanks. All right. So before I move into our message, are there any questions? And I'm going to take another moment to share. And again, praying that everyone is having a truly wonderful, peaceful, and empowered Sunday. Give thanks. Okay, just bringing in just a few folks. Okay. I'm saying a few and I'm continuing here. Okay, let me stop myself. Okay. Yeah, that's good. All right. So, Divine Limitless Creator, we thank you so much for this day, for this time, for the blessings and the wisdom that you have given to us. And we ask that you would govern this session and this message as we move forward into divine light and into your your bosom of love and care. Dwell, dwell. Today's message is coming from the book of what is known as Kenum Anup. Kenum is short for Kenemu, and let me see. He's also known as Kun Anup, but this is he is supposed to be associated with Kenemu, and Kenemu is one of the governing guardians of Shenu water, living waters, Kemetic temple, and so Kenemu is considered to be the great uniter. He is the guardian who sits at the potter's wheel and creates life, and he is the builder. And uh, one of his praise names is Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. hmm he is associated with, in the Orisha tradition, Obatala or Obatala, Oshala in Umbanda um, tradition, and also with Dambala in Haitian Vodun. Uh, he is a very peaceful, fun-loving, but don't play with me kind of guardians. In fact, there is a passage in the uh, in the teachings of Amin Imapet, which I'll also be coming from, which refers to how uh, he, because he stands for righteousness as well, if he becomes disgusted with you as an individual because of the fact that you are living a morally bereft life that is out of sync with harmonious nature, that he will turn his back on his creation because he is that passionate about doing what is right, living in righteousness, and having the creatures that he created uh, be consistent with that. So the same way that I mentioned about how with the other temple group that I had, how we energetically pushed out the outsider. Why? Because it was bringing disruption to the group and throwing off our harmony, because everybody was just really creeped out by this person. You know, I mean, that's another key. And even though he was a very good looking brother and he was friendly and so forth, there was just something that just was not right. So with Kinemu, it's the same thing. You know, if you're not acting within a chord of if you're basically messing up the planet, then his thing is, oh, you got to go. You're no longer under my protection. I don't care that I made you. Okay, you're no longer mine. I disown you, and as such, then you're going to have to deal with your own karma. You know, people just seem to think that karma doesn't apply to them. Keep living. That's all I have to say. Keep living. You know, people think that there are folks who just constantly get away with things and all this, but you don't know what's going on in their lives. A lot of times you make judgments based on what you see on the outside, but you don't know what internal struggles they're dealing with. You don't know what's happening in their households. You don't know what's happening with their finances. You don't know what's happening in their circle of cohorts or whatever. You really don't know. But trust and believe that you can't escape your karma. You know, there are different rituals that people will engage in uh, where they talk about how you can, but you still have to live a certain way. You know, you can make up for what you did, but you still have to live a certain way. That's the law. That's the metaphysical law. Oh, you dig Dambala too, Tessa? Yeah. Yeah. He covers me. He covers me. Kanemu covers me. Obatala covers me. My birthday is the day before Dambala's day, which is Dambala's day is March 17th, which coincides with St. Patrick's Day. Whole thing with St. Patrick driving out the snakes, you know, that's kind of a backwards correlation. I don't get that. But anyway, because Dambala is the great primordial serpent. So, and he is peaceful, he is masterful, he is gracious, he brings wealth, he is fabulous. And so, yeah, um, his energy is just absolutely beautiful. So, why am I talking about him in conjunction with Kun Anup or Kanumu Anup or Kanum Anup? Kanum Anup, the story of Kanum Anup is known as the story of the eloquent peasant. And I've shared about him before, and his story is one of great inspiration. Why? Because it represents the little man who fights for himself and who's able to defend himself in spite of circumstances where he's been set up for failure. In this story, uh, the eloquent peasant, Kanumanoop, has decided that he is going to sell his wares because he's a vendor or a peddler. And he's going to go into um, uh, town and sell his wares. And so he loads up his big cart. He's got his donkey, and he kisses his wife and children goodbye, and he's off to go make some money for the family. On his journey, he comes upon this plot of land, and this plot of land is owned by an official of the government. And this official happens to be home along with one of his cohorts who was also a government employee with a fairly high status. So the two of them decide that they're going to have a little fun and that they're going to single out Kenumanoop as he travels on this road. And there's a narrow passageway. So the owner goes and he puts down a cloth. And so, because he sees that Kunanoop is coming. And so he, in advance, puts down this cloth in anticipation for his coming. And as he comes, because the road is narrow, the donkey ends up stepping on this cloth. The government official, who is the landowner, says, "Oh no! What's going on here? Listen, you have no right trespassing on my property." And Kunanoop is like, "Well, what did I do? What?" And the government official says, "Oh, you stepped on my property. Didn't you see this cloth here? That's connected to my property. That's on my property. You stepped on it. And so you owe me because you can't just trespass on my property." And so the peasant, he is just completely dumbfounded. Don't you know the landowner and his cohort end up taking everything from the eloquent peasant? Just takes all the stuff. Now Kunanoop is upset because I didn't do anything, and now you got my stuff. How am I supposed to make any money? And wait, you're government officials too? This ain't right. So he decides that he is going to go to the high court and appeal to the high court for the return of his belongings. And he goes before the high official Rensi. Well, he makes such an amazingly convincing speech. And it's not just convincing, it's eloquently put. And it's so surprising to Rensi and the people in the court that this peasant is so gifted in speech that he sends him away. Okay, in some verses he's locked up unjustifiably, but then comes before the court again the next day, and once again gives a magnificent speech talking about how this official is so respected in the community and how his good works are a testament to what a good person of a decent, high moral character he is. And that being the case, knowing that his name is so big and his reputation is so respected, why would you allow these thugs of your court to steal my things? I didn't do anything. It's not fair. Why should you rob from the poor? After all, you are high official Rensi. You are known for this. You are known for that. And Rensi listens to him again. He's like, man, that dude can really talk. And so he sends him away. And then the next day, he invites more people. And Rensi ends up going before the court 9 times. Each time as or more effective than he was in the first place. He had not lost his conviction. He knew he was in the right. He knew he was up against these high court officials. He was up against the government. And he had to prove his case. And he had no lawyer. He was his lawyer. So he had to depend on the words that came out of his mouth and his belief in his being correct and the fact that he had been so gravely wronged. And he had to depend on shaming the court, shaming the official, reminding them of what the duty was of the court to uphold justice and righteousness for those who were the citizens, and to not allow wrongdoing to exist, and especially within government and through government officials who were abusing their posts and their power and authority. Rensi ends up being so impressed after the 9 times, and 9's the number of completion, that, and I should also say that while Renzi had him held, he had people go to the peasant's family, found out like, where's this dude live? Where's he live? You know, this dude's impressing me so much. I'm gonna make sure that his family's taken care of while I'm holding him here. Okay. So basically, he was holding him for his amusement, but he was trying to do the right thing, at least in making sure that the family was taken care of. Because, yeah, he was right. And he knew that Kunanoop was right. He shouldn't have had his stuff stolen, you know? And yes, these people who were working under the government were abusing their authority. So he has food and goods taken to the peasant's family while he's in lockdown, which is crazy because it was a form of mental torture that he was doing. And I guess he wanted to see if he was going to be able to break the peasant down, but he did not. Why? Because of the fact that the peasant, who truly was the one acting as the royal in this situation, was so determined. Why? Not only because he was right, but because he had a wife and family to support. And there was no way he was not leaving there without his stuff. The high official Renzi, in being so impressed, by the 9th day, says, give this man back his stuff. And gives him a position in the government. So he ends up getting a job. What is the point of this story? There are a few points. One, there are a lot of stories that exist in comedic literature about the little man, the person that is not expected to be able to hold his or her own, but then always getting the come up. Why? Because right behavior, right thinking, and right action ideally should prevail. Sticking to your convictions and knowing that if you are living in accordance with higher law, that it will respond to and support you. Okay? The other thing is the importance of being well spoken. It doesn't mean that you have to have the most vast vocabulary, but it means that if through composure, along with conviction and the appropriate passion that is expressed, that you can actually convince people to change their minds, no matter what the circumstances. And I've seen this and have experienced this over and again. This is true. So, the other aspect, looking at the abuse of authority. Now, we're all in positions at some point of our lives where we're dealing with power and authority. And how you choose to execute it is based on your integrity and also your moral fiber. And, there are times when people will allow themselves to be convinced to do other things because of compromise, getting somebody who is not really strong enough in their own character, and they can be swayed to do something that is really not in alignment with who they are, who they were, who they set out to be, and the things that they intended to do, especially when it comes to government. We hear about compromise all of the time, all the time. So, you go in with one platform, but then once you're on the other side, it's just like, oh no, it's about deal making, or it's about, well, you can't just be the only holdout. You've got to come along and do things our way. It doesn't always have to be that way. Now, in government, yes, there is a lot of compromise, but to what extent? Now, also, we're looking at the idea that people will be given power who don't always deserve it. We've seen that over and again too, where somebody gets into office and then all of a sudden they're going to bring in all these people who don't really deserve to be in these positions. This is something that has happened, all over the world. Um, and then people don't know how to handle their power, and they get full of themselves. They get these big heads, and they just want to bully other people because of their authority. So here's the question that I had. So these were government people, right? The landowner was a government person. What was he doing home? I mean, maybe it was a holiday or something. I don't know, but sometimes people can exploit their time uh, and not really be on the job. Why? Because they got the title. They got the title, they got the check, and that's all that matters. Whether they actually do the job is another thing. There are some people who get these titles and positions, don't deserve them, and then once they're asked to do what they're hired for, they get offended because in truth, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to ask for help, or they don't want to ask for help because they don't want to reveal the fact that they don't know. They have no idea, okay? And so the whole thing then becomes about putting on appearances so that you don't tip people off to the fact that you don't know what you're doing, even though to a lot of people it's already been obvious. But you still got to play the game, okay? So there's that aspect of it as well. I mean, you had an abuse of authority not only from the two government officials, but also from the high official Ren C. He knew from the very first that the peasant was in the right, but he held him over for his own amusement. That's cruel. I mean, okay, you sent some stuff to his household. This is like I was saying about when people have really wretched characters, but people will let it slide because they've made a donation. All right. I mean, the good thing is that the story ends well, but look what the peasant had to go through in order to get his stuff back. But he did not give up. Tenacity. How many of us have been in circumstances where we have been up against it and where there was just so much power and authority that you were up against, or so many adverse conditions that you were up against that you just felt like just throwing it in? I'm done. I don't want to fight anymore. I can't. I know I'm right, but I just can't do anything. Sometimes it just means taking a breather. That's all. And then finding the right resources to help you. Now, in Shenu, we are a water temple, which also means that we focus on healing. We focus on fighting for the underdog. And that would be people who are exploited, people who have been abused, and also the disabled. I recently spoke before our city council about ADA issues, American Disabilities Act. For those of you who are outside of the U.S., there's a law that protects the rights of the disabled. And I was supposed to have a program last month at a branch library here in Newark. And there was an issue with the elevator constantly breaking. That meant that the floor that the events are held on were inaccessible to people who needed to have an elevator. So you're talking about uh, uh, some of the elderly, you're talking about disabled populations who might have wheelchair, crutches. It's unfair to expect that they're going to be able to go up a flight of steps. I mean, that's what the elevator is there for. And it's not enough to just say, oh, well, it's broken again. So I complained at the main branch about the fact that this was a major ADA violation because I was doing programming at this library throughout the year. And so like the last time, in order to get the elevator fixed, I had to go and complain at the main branch, So this time there's something with the elevator being antiquated and a part being missing and yada, yada, yada. So that's a problem. They moved my program to the main branch where there are 2 working elevators. And this is better because it's a larger location. It's the main branch. There's more foot traffic. So that's a blessing indeed. but that still does not take away from the fact that the elevator at that other branch needs to be replaced, whatever they need to do in order to make it ADA compliant. As a woman who is living with epilepsy and Asperger's, and who has also now had issues with my hearing, that's tied in with the epilepsy, and also being a lifetime musician. And I should say the funniest thing, here's a funny story. I'd shared that in front of city council about, these things affect me as well. Um, uh, the elevator also, because I mean, I've had problems with my hip lately. It's a lot better now, thanks to physical therapy, but still. Um, but when I mentioned about my also having some hearing loss issues, right? And so I was recently at an event where one of the city council people was acknowledging the different ministers who were there, and then all of a sudden this person yells out, "And Queen Mother Imakhu, I see you back there. Thanks for being here." Like, why is she yelling? And then I realized, oh, I guess she thought she was doing me a favor by yelling my name. It's almost like I should have said, "Hey," Okay, so anyway, yeah, people need a lot of education when it comes to dealing with issues regarding various levels of challenges, physical challenges. So, uh, but it is the vulnerable in our society who are the most exploited. The peasant, who was referred to as the peasant, was automatically looked down upon because he was a vendor, he was a peddler, okay? And because he was not part of the wealthy elite. People will base their decisions on you because of what you do or do not have. And because of that, the assumption was made that this had to be some ignorant bumpkin. Not so. It turned out that the peasant was educated and knew how to conduct himself in court, so much so that he set an example. And if you look at the story of the eloquent peasant, it also is the framework for how people address one another formally in government today, also in church services today, in the way that we pray in Kemetic tradition. You first give your salutations. That's what he does when he opens up. He gives a beautiful, glorious speech. When you embark on the lake of Ma'at, truth, justice, and righteousness, may you sail on it with a good wind. May no storm tear away your sail, nor your boat lag behind. May no misfortune fall on your mast, and may your mainstays not snap. Now, this was because it was Kemet and life depended on the Hapi or the Nile River. There were a lot of water references, sailing references, okay, as metaphors. May you not run aground, nor the current carry you away. And it goes on. And then after the whole, I wish you well, I'm offering you blessings of this, that, and the other. So there's that general salutation at first. Then let me raise up your name in this land as the embodiment of every good law. For you are a leader without greed, a great man free of baseness, one who destroys falsehood and brings righteousness into being, one who comes at the voice of the caller. He goes on to praise and praise and praise him. And after doing all of that, that's when he makes his presentment. Okay, so knowing that you are this person, then why are you allowing this to happen? Why was my stuff taken? And it goes back to praising him. but then going back to the issue and then ending with praise, but also holding him accountable because of who he was. This is the same format that is used today. Yes. And you are considered to be a gracious and noble person who respects the court of authority, and understands that you have people who have your life in their hands based on their decision of how you are, what you're saying, and how you're saying it. You can have people who present absolute truth, but if they're yelling and screaming, then they're not going to get the same response, because the people who are in authority are going to feel as though you don't respect them, even though you may be completely justified in your righteous anger. In Kemetic tradition, how you spoke was everything. Everything. How you conducted yourself, everything. Everything. What mattered most was if you were respectful, if you were clean, if you were well spoken. That's the bottom line. Okay, it all really just began and ended there. Although, like I said, people had their prejudices. Bottom line, what got you true success were those things. Why? Because it showed that you had a complete understanding of being harmonious in nature, and with your environment and with your community. Okay? We today should take a page from that. Sometimes we can be extremely well spoken, but then go home to a filthy house. Sometimes the things get a little untidy because you're really busy, but it's not right for you to be living in an environment where things are completely out of order everywhere. You've got to search for this. Where is this? Where is this? Because you don't have a regular place for it, because you're not used to putting things back, because you're used to thriving in chaos. That's Esfet, which is the opposite of Ma'at. Order, justice, reciprocity, balance, higher love. If you love yourself, you're going to make sure that your environment is clean, and understand that also having your body clean. That's respectful, because you have other people around you. Even if you live by yourself and you don't have anybody else to deal with, just getting up and bathing every day shows that you know that you have to get the dirt off of your body, because you respect this vessel. Yes. So, and then being able to effectively communicate with others, that's really important as well. All right. So I want to say also, in terms of the teachings of Amen and Apet, y'all know this is my favorite out of all of the books, and there are many really wonderful, wise books, but this is my favorite because I call this the minister's book. This is the perfect manual for those who are in service as priest, priestess, minister. And so when he talks about respecting the disabled, in fact, wait, there's a more truncated version that's also in this, the Husia, which is where I read the book of Punanup. And in it, he talks about the importance of giving respect to the elderly and disabled. And that is in the book of Amen Emope, like I said, or Amen Emapet, which is the formal name. And if you look at page 61, it says at the top of the page, I'm sorry, rather 63, laugh not at the blind, nor make fun of, it says a dwarf, that was a term used then, but little person, nor interfere with the plans of the lame or disabled. Do not harass those who are in the hands of the Most High. nor be fierce of face against them if they err. Surely humans are clay and straw, and nature is the builder, or more specifically in this case, or Kenum is the builder, who builds down and builds up daily. It is through God who makes 1,000 humble as he wills. It is through God, or nature, or Kenum, who makes thousands into overseers when they are in their hour of their life. Blessed are those who reach the West while they are safe in the hands of nature. What does this mean? This means that, you may think that it's okay to bully, make fun of, cheat, rob, exploit the vulnerable. But in truth, uh, you don't know what your outcome will be, because these very people who you have exploited, bullied, harassed, these are the same ones who can end up being over you. You don't know. In Kemet, the Dwa people, who were the little people, were the ones who had expertise in money, commerce. They also were advisors to kings and queens. They held political positions. They were expert jewelers. But also, in truth, the Dwa people had the gifts of science, the secrets of science, and knowing about meditation, portal travel, um, invisibility, time travel. And you would not assume that. If you look at Beset and Basu, who we open our ceremonies with, they're considered the Dwa people, little people, as was Ptah. Ptah, who was the original architect and builder. And so they were also shapeshifters. To look at them, you would not assume much of anything, that they had any kind of knowledge of anything. But in truth, these are the ones that you should watch out for and revere. People who are vulnerable in society are often greatly insightful because of the time internalizing how people treat them and observing different situations and how they're treated. And people also forget we vote too. I belong to a couple of disability groups, and we talk politics. We talk also about what's happening with the laws. We talk about what organizations we can trust. We talk about what politicians we can trust. We talk about um, what social service agencies are there for us. But we also talk about the importance of camaraderie and sticking together as a political force, because of the fact that we vote. Yeah. So don't underestimate the people that you think can be exploited. If you have been abused, if you have been used, if you have been in vulnerable positions consistently in your life, whether that's dealing with landlords, whether that's dealing with local government, whether that's dealing with family members, whether it's dealing with your job, do know you can overcome it. You may not believe in yourself. It just may be that you didn't connect with the right people. I was recently dealing with some personal situations, and um, did not have the resources at the time to get an attorney. So basically, I was getting beat up in court by a very smarmy uh, uh, judge, and also by the opposing person's attorney. Very condescending remarks and so forth, and it was extremely stressful. And generally, I'm able to be well spoken, but in this situation, I was so completely overwhelmed, I could not represent myself. Again, I have Asperger's, and sometimes it gets triggered. So I didn't know that I had the right to have an advocate for me there in court. Y'all hear me? If you're dealing with disabilities, you have the right to have an advocate in there in court with you. They may not tell you that. And then actually when I found out at first, because I read my paperwork and it says if you need the assistance, blah, 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 then contact the court. It's like, oh, okay. So I asked. And they're like, oh, we don't have anybody here for you. Oh, we don't know. We don't know. What? By law, you're supposed to, okay? And I contacted the ADA and found out, yeah, your rights are being violated because you are living with these challenges and you have the right to have an advocate there for you. Okay. So I contacted the right agencies and was able to get an advocate. And let me just tell you something. The way that I was treated in court changed from night to day. They had to respect me. They had to respect my rights because I could have sued them for not first of all, once I realized that I had a right to get an advocate, I wrote a letter to the court, asked for an adjournment so I would have time to find an advocate. And the judge had no choice but to allow me to get an advocate. And it was rescheduled. I came in with my advocate. The advocate got there late. They could not start court until the advocate got there. They tried to push me too. Well, we can get her on the phone. No, I need my advocate here. They couldn't do anything until she got there. She was able to find an attorney for me, okay, because the fact that her organization deals specifically with people who are on the spectrum. And so turned everything around for me, everything. So be aware of the fact that sometimes it's a matter of finding the right resources. Had I known 2 years ago, because this is something that dragged out for 2 years. Had I known 2 years ago that I could have had an advocate who could have helped to advance things for me and also speak for me when I needed to, then this could have been handled like that, okay? But I stuck to my guns. I did not cave, okay? Because I knew that there were certain things that needed to be ironed out in a certain way. And because of the fact that I am not a lawyer, I knew that I could not do it without one. And I didn't know that there were resources out there to cover my legal expenses under the circumstances, and there were. Who you know to get the proper resources to you. Do not feel as though you have to stay vulnerable and beat up, okay? Taken advantage of, okay? And for those of you who are caregivers, who are dealing with court situations for your loved one, also know that you are not alone. There are disability organizations out there that can help you. And also finding out all of your rights, finding out the laws, finding out who your local government officials are, what they can do for you, and also what your right as a caregiver is as well. Okay? All right, so let me end with this. When you live with challenges, you can let it crumble you or you can let it build you. There may be times where you feel defeated, and I certainly understand. But the wisdom and strength that you glean from these experiences are unlike anything that anyone who has not gone through this. In other words, you can look at it as your superpower. Living with challenges, that's a superpower for me, and it gives me a greater insight as to the true inner workings of society and seeing how people will treat you. But also knowing that, if you're able to live with these challenges, then that gives you power, believe it or not. It is character building unlike anything. And Um, it also gets you to know, gives you the opportunity to know who is real. There was a minister who, at this event that I'd gone to recently, came up to me afterwards and said, "Oh, Queen Mother, I heard you speak on the city council." He said, I didn't know. I had no idea." And uh, I mean, you mean about the Asperger's? He said, "Yeah, I didn't know." Now I know good and well that I'd shared with him before about it, but whatever the case. So I said, "Uh huh." He said, I'm really sorry I didn't know." I said, "Yeah, you'd have probably treated me differently. Oh, y'all probably treated me differently if you had known, huh?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Hmm." But he said, "If I had ever done anything in the past to offend you because of the fact that I was insensitive, then I apologize." That was big. So I have to give him credit for that. I do. Education is always key. Taking the time to tell people. And it can be difficult if you have an invisible disability, because sometimes you just don't want to let people know because of the fact that you can have people who will do all kinds of truly asinine things, say all kinds of things, or because they can exploit you or underestimate you. It's hard. But I'm finding that by no longer passing, as it's called in the spectrum world, where you are a person who is quote unquote high on the spectrum, which is a term we don't really like. But if you're living with Asperger's, or even if you're living with epilepsy, and it's very common for the two to go along with each other, where a person who has epilepsy is also on the spectrum, or vice versa, or has ADHD, which I was diagnosed with also back in the early 90s. Um, OCD, all those are considered what are called comorbidities. And it's because of the fact that many of the same areas of the brain are um, um, affected. And to be very clear, because there are people who don't really understand and they think that autism or Asperger's is a mental illness. It is not. Not any more than if all of a sudden I got a limb lopped off. Does that make me mentally ill? No, no. It's a physical condition based on differences in the brain. It is not mental illness. It's neurological. Okay. And so anyway, um, I want to thank you for your time for today. And I'm praying that today is a positive day for you, and that this has been empowering for those of you who have felt as though you were at your wit's end and you can't go any further. I'm here to tell you you can. Take a rest, take a breather, and uh, just get ready to remount. Look for the proper people and resources that are going to be there for you. Get yourself educated. And if you have to educate others about what you're going through in order to get others on board with you, then please, by all means, do that, because you're doing yourself a favor. Also, you're making the world a better place, because you're bringing healing and understanding to others who do not know. Once upon a time, people thought that epilepsy was demon possession. There are still some people who believe that. I had a relative who told me that, oh, well, you just need an exorcism. Really? We still have a long way to go, but at least we've learned a lot over the uh, over time, and we'll continue to move forward. Before I go, I also want to mention that program that I was talking about that got changed from the other branch of the library to the main branch is called Blacknificently Latinx. And there's information about it at my website at imakhu.info, imakhu.info. It is a program celebrating the Afro Latinx experience. Those of us who have Latin blood and as many of you know, I found out, many of us in the family found out that we have Dominican, Haitian, Puerto Rican, Brazilian blood, but our family kept it a secret. And given the circumstances, I understand why. And a lot of it has to do also with the very blatant racism that exists, unfortunately, in culture in general, but also in white Hispanic culture. So many people in this city, well, not just in the city, but across the board, have told me that they have chosen to keep that part of their heritage um, to themselves because they didn't want to uh, be exploited. They didn't want to um, be hurt by the prejudice that already is so prevalent. There are a lot of stereotypical images that exist within the Latin and Hispanic cultures that are derisive against Black people. And so, like I said, we still have a long way to go. But the Blacknificently Latinx um, program is going to take place on November 21st from 5 to 7 p.m. at the main Newark Library branch. And so we're going to have Don Willie Sanchez, who was the creator of the show Images Imagines, which is a classic show that was on New Jersey Public Television. And also, we'll be having other guests. There'll be music, there'll be food, fashion show, and a very short film. But this will be a celebration, but also a time of education and hopefully unification. And so all are welcome. If you're in the Newark area, then please come on by. We look forward to seeing you and having a really wonderful time. Okay, so with that, if you would like to book a consultation with me, you can call me or text me, preferably text me first because I really don't answer calls of people I don't know. 646-228-1185. I'll check my messages. Okay. So you can, but texting me is the best thing. And then also, like I said, leaving a message. Also, if you're interested in any of my literature, then please go to imakhu.info /store. And also for speaking engagements, please reach out to me. I speak on a variety of topics, but mainly dealing with the Kemetic faith and African and Afro-Latino culture, Afro-Latinx culture, the impact that it had on our society, and also just general motivational stuff from a Kemetic perspective. Okay, so blessings to you all. Tessa, thanks for hanging in here with me, and thank you so much for all of your wonderful, beautiful comments. I truly appreciate you, and the fact that you would often check in on me because I've been off the air for so long. I tell you, this has been a time of great growth. I appreciate the fact that I'm on the other side, and starting life anew has been delicious. Absolutely. I've gotten to pick up where I left off with a lot of things um, that I was working on years back, and now I'm back to working on them. And I'm in just such a better place, and I'm happy. Oh God, I'm happy. And am extremely mindful of who enters my world, what I am doing, what the purpose is, what the intentions are of new people who approach me, and knowing now that I've got a really concrete circle of friends and associates who really do love and care for me. And believe me when I tell you this, just in the same way as the eloquent peasant found that the truth will always come to the fore, and that if your honest intentions will be honored, I believe that that's so. I live by that. Truth reveals itself in time. All right. So, Ebony Queen, thank you so much for being here. Give thanks and praise. All right. Much love to you all. I'm going to say goodbye and let us close with this prayer. Ikanetcher imtu wedsen yet nebu desert dashmek wedsen. May nature be between you and all harm, in all the infertile or absent and empty places where you must walk. I pray that this day is beautiful. I pray this week is beautiful. And I pray that you know that you are beautiful. Why? Because Netshuru resides within you. And because of that, your possibilities are limitless. Hold yourself accountable. Tani accountability. Know that you are loved. And I grant you peace. And I send you all great love. Maria.